Hello, my name is Mackenzie Gentz, and I'm an oboist from Tucson, Arizona. I'd like to refer to the prompt about a non-musical interest or activity that I'm passionate about. When I was coming up with topics for this discussion, I was thinking about communication, language, linguistics, the list goes on. Yet, as I realized later, all of those things have a direct correlation to music in some way or another. So I finally settled on literature. Now, literature is an extremely broad topic, yet it's widely celebrated from people throughout the world. So I'd like to discuss it in terms of two different main points today. First, the syntactical elements, so how things are said. Second, the contextual or content-worthy elements, so what is said. In terms of syntax, I'd like to talk about a book called The Great Gatsby. It's something that most of us have read, and if you haven't read it, I sincerely hope you do. It relays an extremely important message that I found throughout my time as a literature enthusiast. It begins in an extremely convoluted, complex, indiscriminate way, and it's really an expose by the main character and narrator, Nick, as he's telling us about a conversation that he had with his father. From the outset, we want to like this book, right? It's The Great Gatsby. We're supposed to like it. We're supposed to like Nick. Yet, we're not able to relate to him in the beginning, and it kind of leaves a sour note or a note of disappointment. But we aren't totally let down, because as the book progresses, Nick's language becomes simpler, more concise, and more understandable for modern audiences. This allows us to view Nick as human, and we understand him, we relate to him. Yet, as we get into the ending, Nick reverts to this really complex and convoluted type of language, which ultimately separates us from Nick again. Now, what does this tell us, and why is this pertinent in our lives, and in my life particularly? Well, the way we communicate, the way we say things, affects our perceptions of people. You can view this in terms of parent-child relationships, me talking to you, programs communicating to their audiences. This is really important because if you eliminate, as studies show, 2 words from your daily lingo, common words, your perception of people and people's perception of you will change dramatically. Next, content. I don't know if you're familiar with Tucson, but it's not the most global city. It's not very big, we're near the border, and it's a very localized community, which is great in a lot of ways. Yet, globally, there's a huge problem with that. Therefore, literature is a way for me to get into the global community. I'd like to talk about Dostoevsky, Garcia Marquez, and Mukherjee in this portion. First, Dostoevsky was an early social psychologist and a writer in the 1800s in Russia. His book, The Idiot and Crime and Punishment, Notes from Underground, there's a list, but essentially the premise of all his books is the same in that he outlines social psychology, Freudian ideals, as well as the basis of Russian culture, Russian humor even. And that's important today because, well, I don't know if you've noticed or if you have AOL, but I can't go 5 minutes without an email about Russia. And this is a way for me, at least, to be able to connect with that culture and to humanize them and to be able to see how that culture developed right alongside the Freudian culture of Great Britain and the US. In terms of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, he wrote Latin American literature. It's staple in so many circles of literature all around the world. I live near the border, and a lot of my colleagues are Hispanic or from origins similar to Garcia Marquez. Reading his books and understanding his ideals and the premise and the standpoint behind his points really gives me an insight into that culture, and I'm able to communicate and relate to my colleagues with that common knowledge. In terms of Mukherjee, Mukherjee is a historical writer, and in order to understand an issue historically, I think at least, you need to have multiple perspectives on an issue and not just rely on information from classes or from other people. For example, Mukherjee's late recent book, entitled Churchill's Secret War, relays a viewpoint from World War II, on World War II from India. It talks about the famines in India and how those were largely made from a political disagreement between the Prime Minister and his best friend, who was also the War Board Director for India. These historical perspectives really get us mindful of all of the different ways that history is taught, repeated, and even carried out today. For example, not many people look at Trump's perspective on issues. Not many people look at Putin's perspective on issues, or even North Korean citizens' perspectives. Yet this is so important and vital to us as a country and as individual citizens who have a role in global politics and global relations. I'd like to leave you with something about what literature isn't to me. I think in today's society, we focus a lot on what things can do for you, what it is to you, what you can gain from something. Yet what you can't gain from something, or what you refuse to gain from something, is equally as important. What literature isn't to me is a rote for escapism. Escapism, while useful at points, is not what literature provides for me. It's rather a tool for me to be able to understand and communicate with other people and other cultures. Literature also isn't something for me to go around and be pretentious to other people about. I'm not sophisticating myself with this idea of reading books. That's not appealing to me. Rather, I'd like to have literature as a vehicle for humility and for me to be able to be more aware of the world around me. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you so much.